Hello everyone, Kireth here, welcome to another GT Sport video. And this time I'm going to be giving away for free my 7 top tips to beat drivers who are quicker than you and get great results in GT Sport. Now I swear by these 7 tips, and I had to use all of them in this race to win against the likes of Super GT, VQS Nathan, CRG Malukum, Roswald, Treviso, Tim Clark, Marky Boy, GT Academy finalist with Tijani. It's absolutely insane how stacked this grid is and how much faster basically everyone is than me. I'm one of the slowest drivers in this race, and yet with these 7 tips I was able to win. And if I can win with these 7 tips, I think you're going to get great results as well. So I'm going to give them away, let you know what I do, and I really hope you can get some good results as well. Now my first top tip is going to be one that you might think is obvious, but I'm going to explain why it's not as obvious as it seems, and why even if you think you're doing it, you're probably not doing it to the extent you need to if you're not getting results that you think you deserve. So my first top tip is qualifying. And you might think, yeah, qualifying, that's obvious. Do a lap before you go into a daily race. Do 2 laps, do 5 laps. Don't go in with no qualifying time. But for me, it's so much more nuanced than that. And what I mean by qualifying, and it's so important in the daily races, is let's say you're a driver who you get a few evenings a week to go on GT Sport, and you get some time at the weekend as well. And let's also say that you're not really happy about the results you're getting in the daily races. You're not winning, you're not getting top 5s, maybe you're not even getting top half of the grid. Now if you're in that situation, I firmly believe you should not be doing any racing on your first evening you have available. On that first night, you shouldn't be doing any racing whatsoever, no daily racing. And if you do that, I guarantee you will learn so much more about your car and the combo than if you just got into racing straight away. And I can almost guarantee, it's not always the case, but I can almost guarantee that you will shave time off your qualifying time. So it's not unheard of for me at Monza. I'll do 20 laps in a row. Doesn't matter if I get penalties or not, I'll just keep going round learning about the car, because if I've got a track limits penalty, that's really useful information for me to know where I've gone too deep, and to know that my line through is a corner cut, and to know where the limits are, and I can just dial it back a little bit. So if you're not spending that much time qualifying for the daily races and you're not getting good results, try it. Just try it and see what happens. It might be weird the first night, not actually racing, but just try it, and I guarantee that you will have a much better experience of the daily race that week. If you look at this example, we're on board here with Treviso and Super GT. They're in 8th and 7th place going through the second chicane now, whereas I've already gone round the first Lesmo. Now the nuance of why Super GT and Treviso started down here and I started in 2nd place were a bit different in this, but the premise is the same. I was starting at the front of the grid, and it's allowed me to open up a gap in this race against drivers that are much, much faster than me. Super GT is much, much faster than me. And if I hadn't qualified first, there's absolutely no way I'd win this race. Let's go on to my second top tip, and all of these tips combine together for you to get a good result. And my second top tip is car choice. Super GT here is in the RCZ at Monza. Now again, there's a reason why he's in the RCZ, it's a league, but he is in the RCZ and he is at Monza, and it's not the best car around here. It's not as good as the Corvette. You can see Treviso behind in the Corvette and Nathan behind him. They're probably going to have to bump draft Super GT to help him catch up with the pack ahead. Meanwhile, I've gone in the Corvette. I know it's the best car at this track. It's enabling me to actually get a gap at the front of the race from these fast drivers behind it. If I was in the RCZ right now, there's no way I'd have this amount of gap. Now for the daily race, this is so important. You really, if you want to get good results, you cannot afford to be giving away any time to drivers that are already faster than you. So you really need to be in the meta car. Might not be popular, but if you want to get the good results, you've got to be in the meta car. I know in Group 4 previously that divided opinion if that was required you to be in a TT or a Scirocco or an RCZ. But if you were in those cars and made it work, you would just gain time when anyone behind you who wasn't in the right car and was just losing time either on the straights or the corners depending on the characteristics of the track. Now there's a few ways you can work out which is going to be, or know which is going to be the best car for a daily race. First way is to check out Sunday practice lobbies, Sunday practice streams. I stream pretty much every Sunday around 6 or 7 PM UK time for the KRT community on my channel. And we just work out. We know what the combos are going to be. We have the exact fuel consumption, tyre degradation, cars available, laps, tracks obviously. And we just mess around and we work out which is the best car. So when Monza came up in Daily Race C a few weeks before making this video, we knew the Corvette was going to be the best car because we saw that in practice. Other ways of knowing which is going to be the best car for the daily race or the meta car, look at the track guides which come out on a Monday or a Tuesday. Mr. MCA does really good track guides. One Ball Leader does really good track guides. Key 25 does really good track guides. Other ways, a really good way, maybe the best way, is to join a Discord. So for example in the KRT Discord, I'll put a link in the description below, we have 250 people. Pretty much everyone on GT Sport trying out cars and reporting back. So yeah, you've got to be in a meta car. If you want to beat drivers behind you, it's just the way it is. And you've got to know what the meta car is going to be. Now my third tip, this is going to sound more unusual to you. There might be some raised eyebrows. Because my third tip begins with the T, it's teamwork. And I'll explain this. Now in this race, this is a league race. We do actually have actual teammates. So Sam here is my actual teammate. He's just been battling with Marky Boy ahead, and Marky Boy's got a 1 second penalty. Basically by going over track limits, overtaking Sam. Sam's now going to battle with all the cars behind, Roswell, Callum, Martin, Super GT. And all the time that those cars behind Lee's battling, it's just going to be time for me to get away. But you might be thinking in the daily race in FIA there are no teammates, there's no teams. But I'd ask you to question that. Why can't you have a team? And I think this is a really underrated strategy in daily race and FIA in two different ways. So if you're in a daily race and you know someone in your split, either through Discord or elsewhere, why not work together? It's something I don't see enough of. Bump draft each other. If one of you's faster, why not let them through? Maximise the points that you're going to get as a collective. I don't really see a lot of it, and it's quite surprising. And especially in FIA, and I think this is a really potentially important tip. In FIA, if you know someone in your split, slipstream is so important in qualifying. If you can give a slipstream to one of you and maybe switch it for the second lap, because at the moment it's 5 minutes qualifying in FIA, which usually gives you 2 laps, you can get so many positions in FIA qualifying. FIA qualifying, as we all know, is so tight. In my splits, I think my DR at the moment is about 55,000, so those kind of A+ splits. The gap between 3rd and 15th can be 5 tenths. No joke, 5 tenths between 12, 13, 14 positions. And 5 tenths is what you can get at most tracks by being in a slip. So yes, teamwork, working together, try it. It could actually really work out well for you, and you'll know that if you're in the same split, if you've got a similar DR, and if your SR is in the right band. And again, if you don't know what your DR is, or you don't know what your SR is, or what your qualifying times are, do feel free to join the Discord, where we actually have a bot where you can just literally type your name, and the bot will immediately tell you what your DR is and what your SR is, and you'll know if you're going to be in the same split as someone. Right, we're going to go on to my next tip now. We're going to get into more the mental side of things, which is really important if you're racing against quicker drivers than yourself. So if you're looking at people like Super GT and think, how am I ever going to beat Super GT on track because he's so much faster than me, you really need to have the mental side of your game strong. Because people like Super GT don't really make mistakes. In fact, you can see here, Super GT is letting Malookum through because he knows Malookum is a faster driver in a faster car. Maybe not faster driver, is not the right way to put it, but Malookum's got a faster car and he's just going to be faster at Super GT at this track. And he doesn't want to hold him up and lose time. He probably wants to follow him through Martin. I mean, look at this absolute battle here for second place. I mean, I'm already going into turn 1 by myself, and all these people have to deal with each other here, and they're going to lose so much time. But anyway, my fourth tip is composure. Composure, and what I really mean by composure is not making mistakes. and therefore not getting penalties. So here I've used the first tips already. I've got a great qualifying position. I've got the best car. My teammates helped me out here. He's held up the pack a little bit, and I've got a gap now I can work with that I shouldn't have, because Roswald and Nathan here in second and third are much faster than me. And all it will take in a daily race or FIA, and I've done this before and it's really painful, is one track limits, 1.5 second, 1 second, and taking that penalty at Monza here down this straight will bring them right back, so you can't afford to do it. Now we're going to zoom ahead a few laps here from lap 6 to lap 10, because I want to roll in my next tip number 5. It's another C, it's consistency. And they are related but in slightly different ways. So composure means not making mistakes, keeping focused, not letting yourself make any sloppy mistakes, not letting yourself run deep because you forget to concentrate, you look out the window or something, or you look at your phone going off, something like that. That's composure, that's staying focused. Consistency is more about looking forward, really attacking every braking zone, really attacking every apex, adapting with the conditions of the tyres. So you can see here my lap tyres, 46.3, 4, 7, 4, 4, 6, 6, fast lap 46.2, so that my maximum delta there was 0.5 in terms of the difference. And they're not quick times. So my fast lap 46.2, slower than Roswell, slower than CRG Malukum, and they're fighting. Much slower than Nathan, much slower. About 0.6 slower than Nathan, slower than Callum, who's been fighting. May not be slower than Sam, because Sam's really been in the battles. May not be slower than Martin as well, behind him. Yeah, not slower than Martin, so we're having a good race here. Getting a bump draft from Super GT, but yeah, my fast lap's slower than Super GT, 145.9. And almost certainly slower than Marky Boy, who's one of the fast drivers in the game. So my lap times are not fast, but they're consistent. I'm not making mistakes, and I'm adapting to the tyres. I'm really focusing, and I'm not letting my lap times wildly flail all over the place. Because every time that happens, that's going to mean that I'm trying to push too hard, and I can't maintain that exactness of the braking point or the turn-in, or how close I get to the apex or the track limits. So consistency is so important in races like this. If you want to beat the faster drivers, you don't need to have the fastest lap time. It sounds weird. But again, the combination of my choices, starting at the front of the grid, having the best car, working well with my teammate, staying composed, not making any mistakes, not getting any track limits penalties, and keeping that consistency means that my gap now is just absolutely huge in a race. I have no right to be this far ahead. I've absolutely no right to do this. Now my 6th tip, now if you watch my streams you'll understand this one, begins with a Z. And I call it either being zen or being in the zone. But again, if you want to beat faster drivers than yourself, you need to understand that you need to elevate your performance above what you normally do. And in this race I was definitely in the zone. I was getting loads of support. There were hundreds of people watching in stream. I was really feeling the vibes. I could glance over and see people supporting me on. I didn't want to let people down. I wanted to do it for the KRT community. I wanted to do it for my subscribers, my viewers, for everyone who was watching. And that really got me in that zone. And I firmly believe it actually elevated my performance. And if you find yourself in a similar position, it's something definitely to do. Now, the alternative is that you start to panic, you get worried about being so far ahead, or you get complacent. You think, oh, I'm so far ahead now, I must be really good. But for example, in this race, I knew I wasn't the fastest driver. I knew I had no right to be there. And I'd only got to being in first place, and a long way in first place, by being smart and making good decisions at various points in the race and mentally kind of having it in control. So if you find yourself in a similar position in a FIA race, maybe you go into an FIA lobby, you're ranked 20th, but you got the best car. You practiced before, so you get a really good quality time. You work with someone that you know, you get a slip in quality. or you strike an alliance in the quali session, you still get that slip, and you're out in front in first place. You've got to be in that zone. And again, what I mean by the zone is you've got to be comfortable. It's hard to explain. The zone has to be a place where you could spend a long time there. It's not somewhere where you're straining, where you're on the edge. It has to be somewhere where you're very comfortable. And that with that comes the consistency, comes the composure. It's all rolled in together. If you go on the edge too much and think every corner I've really got to maximise it, otherwise they're going to catch up. Otherwise I'm going to be a second slower if I don't nail every apex within a pixel. You won't be able to do it and you'll be inconsistent. So in this race I really felt like I was in the zone, and this was a half an hour race, but I feel like it could have gone on for 2 hours, 3 hours, and I would have been in that zone. You might see sometimes when I'm streaming iRacing with Basic Ollie and Rory Alexander and Team Rock, and you can see sometimes when we're in a zone and just, it doesn't matter, we're going to be in the car for 2 hours. We're just knocking out those lap times. So that's my 6th tip. Being zen, or being in the zone, however you want to call it. And that can get you through the meat of the race. But my last tip is a really important tip if you actually want to win races. It's all well and good qualifying well, it's all well and good getting into good positions. But if you actually want to win races, you need to finish them. So finishing is my last tip. And again, it's another elevation of your performance from being in the zone. And you don't want to go into your finishing mentality too early, because this is, for me, it's a relatively short burst near the end of a race where your sensors are on high alert and you're kind of you're actually using your mental ability, consuming it in a way that you wouldn't be able to sustain it. And again, it's an easy pace to get to, or it's easier to get to if you've been in a zone, as I call it. So in this race here, we're near the end of the race. Nathan, one of the fastest drivers in GT Sport with Vanquish Esports, hunting me down. His tyres are a lot better than me. We've got the reverse cam here from inside my Corvette. I actually needed to raise my game even more, or he would have caught me. If you watch the end of this Club 100 season last season on the Super GT's channel, I'll put a link to that video in the description below. You can see that Nathan and Super GT and Roswell, they caught me on either the last lap or the penultimate lap. And they were all set to do the same thing again here, because they stopped squabbling and they started working together, and their pace came out. And I needed to go into an extra level to finish this race. And if you watch my stream back, because we're going around the last corner here, we're about to take check a flag and take first place in this insane lobby. If you look at the live stream, you can see my reactions as I go over the line, as my energy is kind of like I wasn't able to sustain that level of focus or, you know, attention to exactly what the car was doing and trying to get pixel perfect at this moment in time for any longer, because it was so draining, and to win the race was incredible, but I really had to go to an extra level. And again, so just to explain, people like Nathan, Roswell, Super GT, Marky Boy, Malukum, they can drive faster than me easily for sustained periods of time, but I can try and match them for shorter periods of time if I really focus and I get a bit lucky, if that makes sense. So the combination of all these tips means that, you know, if you have qualified well, if you've got the best car for the track, if your teammate might have helped you out at some point, if your composure has meant that you've maintained that gap for as long as possible, if you've been in the zone which has seen you through a long part of the race and been something to build on, then you're able to go into that extra level. You're in an excellent place to elevate yourself for that finishing moment where you drive to the true best of your ability, with the knowledge that you've done most of the race without putting a foot wrong, because you've been in a really good mental place. And that last burst of speed and mental attention might just see you over the line before they can catch you. So those are my 7 tips: qualifying, car choice, teamwork, composure, consistency, being zen, being in the zone, and finishing, going to that finishing level. And again, just to be clear, this race that I've shown on screen as an example, I should basically have been last. In fact, I pretty much was last in the last race we did together, but in this race I was able to come first. Basically by utilising all of those tips and giving me the best possible context to win the race. So I hope they work for you. Do let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Let me know if you tried them, let me know if you disagree, if you got any feedback, if you got any other tips. Do also feel free to join the Discord as well. There's a link in the description below where we talk about all of these things. People ask for advice. People like Ruswell, Nathan hang out in there. You can ask them questions as well. But yes, so there we go. If I could beat Super GT and esports drivers, you can definitely do it as well. You can definitely get results against better drivers than you. So really hope this video helped. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.